Transportation is germane to economic development. The next panelist, policy expert Mr. Eyo Ekpo, advocates that funds secured from development finance institutions should be tied to initiatives that incorporate private sector participation.
I think that after 60 years, it's pretty clear that the federal government alone has a huge responsibility, not just to build, but also to maintain our infrastructure stock. And so a lot more has to be done at state level. So I would say two things that I would advocate. First, the federal government still owns infrastructure, national infrastructure. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that sector. But at the same time, it's also carrying through private sector or PPP initiatives. Now, in approaching DFIs for development funding, I would say that those funds should be tied as we go forward to those areas or initiatives by the government that are bringing in private sector participation. In many cases, it's difficult to walk through a concession and agree a concession until you have secured the federal government's own obligation to actually rehabilitate that infrastructure, as it were. So I'll give rail as an example. GE is currently working through a procurement process for infrastructure, but you'll find out that going forward, the bit of infrastructure work that was done by the government with the rehabilitation, a lot of it has not been completed. And when you look at infrastructure or rail concessions in Africa, those that have failed, largely failed because national governments did not adhere to their own obligations to actually rehabilitate that infrastructure and bring it back to a point at which the private sector could operate them. So there has to be quite a bit of working together in ensuring that funds are actually sent or directed at those areas where the government's responsibility has to come back. The second point I would make is to look at sub-regional, and this is not just about transport now, but infrastructure generally. The state governors who are here, who have spoken about the leadership of Kaduna State in what it's doing. And one of those things that the Kaduna State government is doing is actually bringing back sub-regional initiatives. So in the Northwest, for instance, there's a lot that can be done on electrification, rural electrification, on transmission. And I think that if DFIs are attracted to those areas, if anything, they should begin to look at what the states and the regional blocks are doing in the country and supporting those initiatives. So those two things are what I would really contribute to.
The Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, Hajia Aisha Abubakar, on her part, speaks on the newly signed Service Delivery Charter, which is aimed at shortening the turnaround time for approvals and applications, which essentially fosters ease of doing business.
The challenges that we're facing today need to be simplified by reduction in bureaucracy and bottlenecks. And signing up for this charter is what it means. At the federal government level, you're aware that there's a presidential council on the ease of doing business. And that council has been working effectively, particularly since February 2017. So far, we've been able to key into 3 reforms: the entry and exit of people, the entry and exit of goods, and transparency in government procedures. Now, what this means is that working very closely with the aviation sector and transport sector, we're able to sanitize, especially the Lagos airport, so you don't have touts receiving you. We have a single form now for people when they come in. There's a directive to issue visa from our foreign missions in 48 hours. We now have more countries participating on the visa on arrival. When it comes to the issue of ports, there's synergy between the council itself and the Ports Authority for clearance. So there's one bureaucratic process that you go through. So this cuts out delays and inefficiencies in clearing your goods at the port. Transparency in government procedures also now means that all pyro or major MDAs, that's ministry departments and agencies, have functional websites where you can go and find information as to what to do when you want to come into Nigeria.
Afterwards, the acting MD/CEO of Bank of Industry, Mr. Wahid Olagunju, responds to some of the questions from members of the audience on whether there is a database for Nigerian businesses and what's being done to help them build capacity.
It's not the Bank of Industry's responsibility to compile database, but however, we work with the National Bureau of Statistics and SMEDEN, that is the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, and they have succeeded in jointly organizing tools, and they remain the most reliable data we have in Nigeria today. They reported 37 million MSMEs in Nigeria, and it's true, they also confirmed that most of them do not have access to financing through the established financial instruments of the country. So that's why efforts have been made on a collaborative basis to build the capacity of our SMEs. You hit the nail on the head. I make bold to say that we've never been short of funds, supply-wise, for MSMEs in Nigeria. What we are lacking are bankable proposals that can attract funding on a viable and sustainable basis. And that's why the Bank of Industry appointed more than 200 business development service providers or SME consultants, including the Kaduna Business School, to vet the business ideas of potential entrepreneurs and help them package bankable proposals. And that speaks to the catch step program that we have with the Kaduna State Government. The Kaduna Business School has a website that is jointly managed by KBS and the Bank of Industry. Young potential entrepreneurs submit their business ideas and proposals to that website. They are screened, and to date we've trained almost 1,000 youths in Kaduna State have passed through that program, and we've been able to lend to them substantially in the last 1 year. Our risk assets in Kaduna State grew by about 11%, from 35 billion to 40.3 billion between 2015 and 2016. And a number of them went to the catch step beneficiaries. But steps are being taken to, on a continuous basis, improve the capacity. Right now, Kaduna Business School has been mandated by the Bank of Industry to work with all the 19 northern states to ensure that the enterprise development centers in those states are equipped with the trainer skills such that they can also help train potential entrepreneurs in the states across the country. Now, the Lagos Business School is handling the roles of the enterprise development centers in the southern part of the country. So we are working closely with the EDCs in ensuring that we build the capacity of MSMEs before we make funding available to them, where that is very, very crucial.
That's our show today. Many thanks for watching. But remember, there is no better time than now to partner with the Bank of Industry. BOI has made it possible for you to apply for loans online. Simply download the BOI SME Loan app from the Google Play Store and follow the instructions. For more, visit any of the bank's branches closest to you or their website at boi.ng. Feel free to tweet also at me at KAY Alayande. You can watch previous editions of the program on youtube.com. Type BOI Weekly in the search area and there you go. I am Kayode Alayande. Bye now.